Yo guys, what is good? Welcome back on the Uncle Sharma channel. Here we are. The day is upon us, -1 until Serie A is back and our beloved Inter is back. Man, I miss these boys. It's been a difficult summer, not gonna lie. It started off well, we know, with all the incomings, and then things got a lot more tricky and in some parts a bit embarrassing and still ongoing at the moment. But today, Inzaghi had his pre-match press conference before the Lecce game, and he announced that the transfer window is closed as far as he and the directors have agreed upon in terms of incomings. Apart from the Vry position, outgoings, he said there should not be any more outgoings, but as we know, we can't 100% trust it. But what we're going to do today is look at the squad that we have in totality for this season as things stand. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball to predict the future, what will happen. As things stand today, how we're looking, are we better than last season, how is our depth, and then we're going to look at what are the tactical options available for Inzaghi and what we may see as changes compared to last season and this season. And of course, you guys, of course, let me know in the comments down below any tactical ideas or suggestions you may have for this Inter team in 22-23. Let's go. But actually, before we get into the tactics and the squad, there's one thing I want to show, and I want Inzaghi to show this to the team, because this should be the beginning point of the season. This is the starting point of the season, and it is the ending of last season.
Che lui cita spesso, non si immaginavano per questa squadra, e c'è un po' di commozione anche negli occhi di Lautaro Martinez, occhi solitamente cattivi.
Yes, guys, the ending of last season. I want Inzaghi to show that to the players, and especially as you saw, a lot of the pictures and images were focused around Lautaro, but it wasn't just Lautaro. There was a lot of players completely dejected and disappointed after the disappointing ending of last season. But I want them to use that as the fuel to the starting point to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And guys, I've been told by people that have been to the San Siro for most of their lives, they've been season ticket holders forever, or they go to the Miata Stadium regularly, and what happened on that last day of the Campionato last year is something special, because the fans stayed behind for almost half an hour chanting, trying to lift up the players, and the players stayed there to watch them, to be with them, and to suffer with them. So that's something special, but we don't want to see that once again. We want to see the players celebrating with the fans, and the fans staying there to lift the trophy, not to be sad. But anyway, let's get into the main part of the video, discussing Inter's squad for 2022-23. And I have this graphic here up thanks to chosen11.com to create the formation, and this is Inter's 25-man or so squad that we have for this season. As I said, as things stand, starting off in goal, we have addressed the weakness that the Radu issue that we had last year, and potentially the long-term position for Handanovic, the long-term replacement. Onana is there, of course. Cordas is also there, the Padelli replacement, the kind of the meme character of the dressing room. But it's going to be Handanovic starting the season. But let's see how long Onana takes, and let's see if Inzaghi has the balls to drop Handanovic if any mistakes happen. But again, going into the season, guys, he is still the Inter captain. I'm going to back Samir Handanovic. But of course, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be blindly following him and supporting him if he makes mistakes. And now we have the right man to take over if things go wrong. Now, moving on to defense, this is, as we know, and Inzaghi's once again reiterated in his latest press conference that we need the Ranocchia replacement of Weiss, De Vrij. Yes, going into the summer, we wanted potentially an upgrade on De Vrij after the shaky year that De Vrij had, and in general, we just need someone with slightly different characteristics, which we knew was that Brazilian guy that went to somewhere over in Turin or somewhere like that. But Inzaghi is confident today. He said someone will come in that position, but we know if no one comes, or as things stand right now, as Inzaghi said, if De Vrij is injured or suspended, Skriniar will be the one stepping in there. But also we've seen that Bastoni can also step in there, and then probably DiMarco plays there. But that's the reason why we need someone there, because we shouldn't be shuffling the whole defense around just because one player is missing. So that's why it's key that Inzaghi is given the Ranocchia replacement, and at least a good quality one. Right centre back, we know Skriniar. This is the biggest if, in terms of, we know that a lot depends on Skriniar staying for the outcome of the season, and for now, and I'm so delighted to say that Milan Skriniar is right here, and it looks like he is staying. PSG looks like they've gone away, but I'm not going to speak right until the end of the Mercato on this. We cannot be convinced, but what a boost that is. It's almost like a signing, even though it obviously isn't. And of course, to back him up, we have the ever reliable, the immortal DD33 Danilo D'Ambrosio, who usually always comes in with a couple of clutch moments a season, and I expect no less from him this season. Who's also, DD33 can also play in all the different. We've seen him play even in the middle this pre-season, so he's always going to be useful. As always, on the left, we know Bastoni and DiMarco. But in pre-season, we've also seen, and a lot of us were calling for it last season already. Matty Doms has been played a lot in the back three in this pre-season. Again, that's mainly due to the lack of options at the back, but Domsy can also cover there. And I think in some matches, if there's a taller striker like the Arnautovic Bologna goal we conceded, we know that DiMarco just physically, it's not even his fault, he just physically cannot cope with those type of guys. Domsy should be a little bit more reliable when it comes to just out and out defending. He's a better defender than DiMarco in general. Even if they were both the same height, I would trust Damian just more on a defensive level. But we know DiMarco's build-up play is even better than Bastoni's. He's got a beautiful left foot. Moving into midfield, Lord, hallelujah, we have the Vice Brozovic. We don't have to play Matthias Vecino there. We don't have to play Hakan Çalhanoğlu there. We don't have to force Gagliardini there. We have a Vice Brozovic, Christian Aslani, 20 years old from Empoli. Yes, he's going to make mistakes. Yes, he needs time. But I hope Inzaghi gives him the time. He may even get time straight away in the match against Lecce. Let's see what happens with Brozovic's injury. But at least we can sleep easily when Brozovic isn't there. At least that the team's not going to fall apart in theory. And I do have a lot of confidence in Aslani, who actually is also going to be useful in all the other positions in midfield as well. He's not going to be just the Vice Brozovic. I think we're going to see him becoming useful even as a Vice Hakan and Vice Barella as the season goes on, because he does have an eye for goal and he does have those running into the box capabilities as well. As we know, the other midfield positions, Hakan, we signed Mkhitaryan as his backup. He's going to be either the Barella or the Hakan backup, so we'll see how that works out. Mkhitaryan is going to need time as well to get adapted. He only really converted to that position last season under Mourinho, and even in pre-season he hasn't looked too good, Mkhitaryan, but he should be, in theory, an upgrade on Vecino and, of course, the declining Vidal that we had last year. Gagliardini, the ever immortal Gagliardini, is still there. He's on his last year of his contract. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't renew this guy's contract again. But he's reliable most of the time when he comes on. The problem is Gagliardini plays better when he starts. He's a guy that takes a little while because of his engine, because of his size. He's not an impact substitute, and usually, like when he has 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the game, he's usually more negative, or he has more of a negative impact than the positive one, because he's kind of like, it takes him a while to get into the rhythm of the game. But as usual, Conte liked him, Inzaghi likes him. There's a reason for that. He's tactically disciplined. He knows what to do. He follows orders to a T, and it is what it is. He's always there, and he comes up with a couple of nice goals here and there a season as well, especially against the Genoan teams, as we know. Moving on to the wing back position, this is also one of the big talking points coming into this season. Dumfries has remained. He looked like he may have been the sacrificed player instead of Skriniar maybe, but he looks like he's going to stay. And I'm happy, because it's way too late to make any type of changes right now. And I think, of course, he's going to retain his spot as the starting right wing back quite rightly. But we are expecting a little step up from Dumfries this season. Just last year was a year of adaptation. It took him a few months, just as it should. Should take him a little time to adapt. But I'm expecting slight improvements now from Dumfries on the ball, possession of the ball, and a few more ideas when it comes to the attacking third, not always the same stuff. But we have a wild card substitute for Dumfries this year. Belanova is a raw but a right wing back with a lot of potential. He has electric pace. 1v1, he's superior to Dumfries. He's got a little bit more variety to his attacking, but he needs to learn to play in a big team, and he needs to improve his defending, and all his all-round game needs to improve. He needs to add goals and assists to his game. But I see him being a weapon to use in the as the game is going on in the 70th, 80th minute, as teams get tired. And of course, we've always got the ever reliable Matty Doms as well, in case we want to go a little bit more defensive. And Inzaghi wants to keep things a bit more tight at the back. Let's move on to the left. This is probably the biggest talking point for this season in terms of, can Gosens replace our MVP from last season, Ivan Perisic? I do have faith in Robin Gosens. I've always said he's not my type of player, but the Atalanta Gosens, if he rediscovers his form, his physical condition, most importantly, is going to put up double-digit numbers for 100. I think 100%. Getting into the box, with his heading, with his power, he's going to be good. I hope, just gotta cross your fingers that this guy stays fit. And then Di Marco has seemed like he's kind of gained Inzaghi's trust again as a left wing back, which I'm happy to see, because he is a really good weapon to have with his left foot. He's obviously nowhere near as powerful or athletic as Gosens or Perisic, but his threat from the left-hand side is not to be underestimated. And of course, he's always useful for set pieces as well. And again, Matty Doms can double up on that side as well. What a utility man. Now let's finish up front. Of course, we know this was another big talking point. It could have been Dybala there, it could have been what could have been, Lautaro Dybala, Lukaku Dybala, but in the end it's Lautaro Lukaku. The Lula is back. I don't want to hear from anyone. This is the best strike partnership in Serie A, if not in Europe. These two have a telepathic understanding, great, opposing characteristics to, make and gel together, a great partnership. And it looks already to be at a high level of understanding as in pre-season already. And the backup to Lukaku, a hungry new Lukaku, as we've seen, he's very hungry. He wants to prove people wrong once again, people that he says have forgotten what he can do when his year at Chelsea. But to back him up now, it's not Pinamonti, it's not Esposito as Conte had, and Conte wanted Edin Dzeko. So actually we have the strike probably that Conte wanted, the Lukaku, Lautaro, Dzeko. Dzeko, we knew last season dipped off very badly towards the end of the season, but he should be much more reliable as a backup. And in case we're desperate, just to inshallah cross and inshallah balls in late on in the game with his heading and his height. And then Lautaro, of course, where he had his highest scoring season last year, although I don't think he had a great season in my opinion overall. But a lot of the signs this preseason are pointing that this guy could even outscore Lukaku this year, and I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, because he has taken his movement and finishing to the next level towards the end of last season. And if he continues like that, he is going to finally reach that potential that we all knew this guy had. And to back him up, now we have still Tucu Correa. Need a big season from Tucu Correa. Injury ravaged last season. We knew that he was injury prone when we signed him, but he was even more injury prone than ever before in his career. So he was unlucky. And as I keep repeating to people, if you watched Inter properly without any agendas, you saw that when Correa played, Inter played a much smoother, better game. And Inter's winning percentage whenever Correa started was very, very high. And his link up with Lautaro especially was really good, as we saw in the Coppa Italia derby. So hopefully Inzaghi, if Correa is used, is more as a alternative when starting instead of Lukaku, rather than just thrown on. I don't want to see Dzeko and Correa coming on at the same time in the 70th, 80th minute. We've seen in preseason, it just kills the whole rhythm of the team, the flow of the game. It makes no sense, really. You don't need to sub out both your strikers at the same time. Only one needs to be subbed out. And then to back them two up, in case of emergency, the fifth striker, apparently, according to reports, is going to be Valentin Carboni, the Argentine youngster. the brother of Franco Carboni, who's been loaned out to Cagliari. We saw the technical ability of this boy in pre-season, but we haven't seen too much of him. But also, it could also be Mkhitaryan. Let's not forget Mkhitaryan in his Dortmund years, and at the beginning at Roma played more as a auxiliary striker, second striker, attacking mid. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Mkhitaryan in an emergency position, in an emergency situation, being played up there like Stefano Sensi was at times last season at the beginning, if you guys remember. So yeah, overall, guys, I think this is a very solid squad. I think we've improved our depth. As I said, Mkhitaryan, Aslani, in theory, should be an improvement on Vecino and Vidal. Lukaku, Lautaro is definitely a better strike partnership than Lautaro Dzeko was last season. But now we have Dzeko and Correa backing them up. So as a quartet, as a those four strikers, that is very high quality for Serie A, where there's no super attacks in this league. That is good enough to win Serie A 100%. And then hopefully we got Carboni backing them up. And then we also may have the wild card here of Casadei as well. We've seen the boy has been very hyped in pre-season, but as we know, it's very unlikely that we'll see this guy getting some time, and it depends if he stays anyway, because he's rumored to be leaving. But I would like to see more youth integration this season, if possible, if there are injuries or concerns or just some fresh ideas are needed in the season. Throw some of these boys in, see what they can do, rather than the usual status quo. The only concern for me is still this De Vrij backup position. They really need to address that. Ideally, I wanted a proper centre back to back up Bastoni as well, rather than Di Marco, but it is what it is. And I hope Onana doesn't take too long to take over from Handanovic, because the signs are that Handanovic is declining. But as I said, I'm going to back Handanovic until the end. But yeah, I am very happy with this squad. I think this squad is good enough to challenge for the Scudetto 100%. I don't think it's good enough to go deep in the Champions League. And I hope, Inzaghi this year chooses to prioritize certain competitions, because we saw last year playing in all three competitions really did take the edge off us. And of course, with the World Cup in the middle of the season this year, is going to make things even trickier. So I think Inzaghi needs to be a little bit more smart with his energy and resources management. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good season. I'm looking forward to it. You guys let me know in the comments down below, what do you make of this squad? And now we'll just talk about the tactical situations possible for Inzaghi this season. So here we are, guys. This is Inter's lineup in possession. So this is Inter's 3-5-2 as the starting 11 that is supposed to be our best starting 11. What you see right here is actually our build-up formation, because Inter, when they build up, this is nothing new, by the way. I'm not claiming to be a tactical genius or anything, but this is how Inter build up in a 4 at the back, because Brozovic comes deep as one of the centre backs to pick up the ball, and then Skriniar and Bastoni go out wide almost as fullbacks to spread the play and give options. And usually one of Hakan or Barella comes deeper to pick up the ball. And a perfect example of this is the goal that we scored against Roma last season, where Dumfries scored. And here it is. You see there, Di Marco passing it to Perisic. Barella is the one that came deep this time, and then Dumfries is the one making the run in behind and getting the ball from Hakan's through ball and scoring. What a beautiful goal that was. And that beautiful graphic, thanks to Math and Sport on Twitter. Beautiful bird's eye view. But you could see exactly what Inter do with Brozovic comes deep here. And what Lukaku now gives us in this formation now is, if we are starting to struggle in this, we've seen that sometimes Inter do struggle to play out from the back, because teams now are much better at pressing. Pretty much every single team in Serie A will press, especially from the goal kick. And most of the teams now do that. It's not just Atalanta or the big teams, it's pretty much every team. The addition of Lukaku finally adds is that ability that if we are being out pressed and everyone is there's no passing options, Handanovic will be able to go long in behind, and Lukaku will be able to chase that. That is an option that we just didn't have with Dzeko. Unfortunately, he just didn't have the legs to do that. But also, of course, to bypass the press, just to go directly to Lukaku. Now, this is where Lukaku made a lot of strides forward under Conte, and we've already seen in pre-season his ability and his touch actually has been very good. Dzeko was good when he first came in, and then he had the dip wasn't just in goals with Dzeko. It was literally his touch, his heading ability, his duel winning just went all the way down after January. So Lukaku should add that ability for us to completely bypass the press of the other team, and that threat in behind that we just didn't have. As you saw that Roma goal, it had to be Denzel Dumfries making the run in behind rather than one of the two strikers. And Gosens should also have that ability. Gosens actually will add even more goal threat than Perisic. Perisic, always had great potential, but he never seemed to have that, that hunger or that real, striving to get goals. But we've seen that Atalanta, Gosens is almost like a striker, the way he moves into the box, the way he attacks the far post especially. And that's why I see him getting a lot of numbers in terms of goals and assists. Now, the other tactical option Inzaghi has, and I don't know if he will take this, but I think if you have a weapon like Lukaku once again in the team, we have Dumfries, we have Gosens, we have that athleticism in the team that we couldn't have as much last year because of Dzeko. Basically, the move that Conte made last year to take the defense and the whole line, the center of gravity of the team, just a little bit lower and be able to absorb pressure, which helps our defenders in general. None of our defenders, unfortunately, are blessed with athleticism, and they're all just much more comfortable defending in a position like this, where they also get help from Gosens and Denzel tucking in. When, unfortunately, they're in open space, this is where we suffer. So this is, I think, makes sense on a defensive basis, just to be a little bit more solid, as we've seen already in preseason, we've been suffering, but also having that option to, once again, being able to hit teams in spaces like here with Lukaku, being able to attack these type of spaces, Lautaro as well, Gosens, Denzel, being able to attack all these spaces in behind this, which where we know how Inter really strived on the continent. But as we know, Inzaghi seems to prefer a more possession-based and a more higher line-based football. So I think this is one of the options that he probably won't go for, but I think it would be smart of him, especially in bigger games, to do something like this. So another tactical option that Inzaghi has, and here we've lined the other team up in Italy's favorite formation in Serie A, the 3-5-2, and obviously becomes a 5 at the back for the opposing teams, where teams will sit back against us. And this is where, it becomes difficult to find any spaces. They'll close up any little gaps and they'll make life difficult for Inter. This is where Inzaghi, again, has the weapons off the bench to change things up from the 3-5-2. We've seen it in pre-season, the 3-4-1-2, where Tucu Correa can be brought on as the attacking midfielder, making Brozovic and Barella tuck in a little bit more centrally and a little bit deeper, and make Tucu have that free roaming role behind Lautaro and Lukaku to try create some overloads either on this side or on that side, and try to create some dangerous positions and combinations, especially with Lautaro. That's definitely one of the options that Inzaghi has at hand. It could be also Mkhitaryan. As we said, he has played most of his career as more of an attacking midfielder. And we know, of course, in Limone Ball, peak Limone Ball, when these types of things happens, we know either one of Bastoni or Skriniar are given that freedom. More Bastoni for sure, given that freedom to roam around and be a auxiliary midfielder and even an attacker at times. We saw that goal that we scored against Roma away, where Dzeko scored, with Bastoni ended up being in the middle of the box, giving the ball to Hakan, who gave it to Dzeko to score. And that is another way that we try to create these overloads on the side. The main concern I have, as the main thing is about, Perisic not being there. Both Gosens, I've talked about this many times, both Gosens and Denzel, they are not two guys that are going to take on their man. They both, as soon as they receive the ball in this position, they either, pass it backwards, or they recycle the ball and things don't really move, and they, the ball will move around and go to the other side and probably go back around. So for that reason, I think I've said that probably our optimal wing back combination isn't Denzel and Gosens, because I think either one of Bellanova or Di Marco offer something different. Di Marco is really good at early crosses because of his left foot. He's able to cross from this deep if Lukaku and Lautaro are already placed, because he's got that type of whippage to be able to make that early cross. And on the other side, Bellanova, as I said, he is the one that will be able to take on his man and take a few more risks to get to the byline and get the ball into the box. So it'll be interesting to see how Inzaghi goes around that, and which will be the dominating side. Again, thank you to Math and Sport with this great graphic that shows with the power of data the zones of attack of each team. So Inter are this team here, the second blue one. These are Napoli, Juventus and Milan. And we knew, I called it from the beginning of last season, and I think it was obvious, the fact that you have Di Marco or Bastoni on the left-hand side, plus Hakan, plus Perisic, plus Lautaro drifting onto that side. It just made sense that Inter were going to be prevalently a left-sided team, and it shows that here that Inter were more playing on the left side because of Dumfries in general, not as comfortable on the ball, Skriniar as well. But this year, I think it's probably going to end up looking more like Napoli. So you see Napoli because they have Mario Rui, Di Lorenzo as the fullbacks, plus Lozano, Insigne. Like, it was very balanced. There's no domination on any side. I think this season it'll probably be like that. I think it'll be much more balanced. I think both wings will be used as much as each other. And you see Inter in general with Inzaghi, there's a lot of central usage of the ball compared to all the other teams, and I think this will remain very high because our midfield, it really is the fulcrum of the team. You see like Juve with Cuadrado very heavily on the right, and Milan very heavily on the left thanks to Leao and Hernandez. So there's nothing wrong with that, but I think this season we'll see a balancing out of Inter's wing usage. But yeah, that was the video, guys. I hope you guys found it interesting and insightful. Of course, the first part talking about the squad, and then the tactical options available to Inzaghi. One that I forgot to mention quickly was if Onana comes into the team, that has even another dimension if we are being pressed by the other team, because Onana is even more comfortable and even better than Handanovic on the ball, and he has different, much more quicker passes and more pinged passes compared to Handanovic, who usually floats balls a lot more. And even goal kicks or kicks with his hand, we've seen that he's able to be much more accurate, much more direct, which should give us a few more attacking options. But yeah, I hope to see some new tactical additions from Inzaghi. You guys let me know in the comments down below. Is there any potential ideas that Inzaghi should be trying to implement or that you have? Would you want to see the team come a bit deeper, or do you want to continue seeing this high line being played? And yeah, I can't wait for Lecce tomorrow, and I can't wait for the upcoming season. I think it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a very competitive one. I don't think there's any outright favorites. I still have faith in my boys Inter to get the Scudetto home and get that second star. You guys let me know your thoughts down in the comment below. Hope you enjoyed that video, and if you have, make sure you leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next one, which obviously will be the post Lecce game. Ciao ragazzi, Forza Inter, second star mission on as always.